Year's Eve is supposed to be loud. Fireworks, music, voices counting down together. It's the one night of the year when silence feels out of place. But for some people, the quiet moments between celebrations are where everything goes wrong. These are three true stories that happened on New Year's Eve. Not rumors, not internet myths. Real experiences told by people who expected nothing more than to welcome a new year, and instead carried something terrifying into it. The first story takes place in a crowded city apartment building just hours before midnight. A woman in her late 20s was hosting a small New Year's Eve gathering. Nothing wild, just a few close friends, drinks on the counter, music playing low enough to keep the neighbors happy. The windows were fogged from heat and laughter. Outside, fireworks were already starting early. At around 10:30 p.m., someone knocked on her door. She assumed it was a neighbor complaining about noise or someone arriving early for a different party. When she opened the door, no one was there. The hallway was empty, lights buzzing softly overhead. She laughed it off and went back inside. 20 minutes later, the knock came again. This time it was slower, deliberate. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. When she opened the door, the hallway was still empty. But this time, she noticed something else. Her welcome mat had been moved. Not much, just slightly turned, like someone had nudged it with their foot. She felt uneasy but didn't want to ruin the night. She locked the door and turned the music up a little. At 11:47 p.m., just 13 minutes before midnight, the knocking returned. Only this time, it wasn't coming from the front door. It came from inside her apartment, specifically from the bathroom. Everyone froze. The music stopped. The laughter died instantly. The knocking came again. 3 slow taps from behind the closed bathroom door. She hadn't heard anyone go in. One of her friends opened the door. The bathroom was empty. The window was locked. No vents, no hiding places. They spent the countdown huddled together in the living room, too afraid to leave, jumping at every sound. When midnight hit, no one cheered. She moved out 3 days later. The second story happened far from any city. A couple decided to celebrate New Year's Eve alone in a rented cabin in the mountains. No parties, no crowds, just snow, wine, and the kind of quiet you only get far from civilization. The cabin owner warned them that the road wasn't well traveled in winter. Once snow fell, they might not see another car until morning. That sounded perfect. They arrived just before sunset. The cabin was small but warm, wood stove crackling, wind pushing softly against the walls. No cell service. At around 9 p.m., they heard footsteps outside, slow, crunching, circling the cabin. The husband grabbed a flashlight and stepped onto the porch. The snow around the cabin was smooth and untouched. No footprints. They convinced themselves it was an animal and went back inside. At 11:30 p.m., the knocking started. Not on the door, on the window, the bedroom window. 3 taps, then silence. The wife refused to look. The husband pulled back the curtain. There was no one there, but there were handprints on the glass, pressed from the outside. They didn't leave until morning. When the cabin owner arrived later that day to check on them, he quietly asked one question. Did it knock before midnight or after? The third story didn't happen in one place. It followed someone through the night. A college student was working a New Year's Eve shift at a grocery store. Late hours, fewer customers, time dragging painfully slow. She finished just before midnight and walked home through empty streets, fireworks popping in the distance. Halfway home, she realized someone was walking behind her. Same pace, same stops. Always just far enough away that she couldn't see their face. She crossed the street. They crossed too. Her phone had died. Her heart was pounding so loudly she was sure they could hear it. As the countdown echoed from nearby apartments, 10, 9, 8, she ran. She made it into her apartment building just as people screamed, "Happy New Year," somewhere outside. She slammed the door behind her and leaned against it, shaking. Then she heard the footsteps again. Inside the building, slowly climbing the stairs. They stopped outside her door. She stood frozen as fireworks exploded, covering the sound of a single soft knock. One knock, then another, then nothing. The police never found anyone, but every New Year's Eve since, she leaves town, because some nights don't end when the year does. They stretch, they linger, and they remind us that not everyone welcomes a new beginning the same way. So when the countdown starts and the noise fills the air, remember this: fear doesn't wait for midnight. And sometimes the scariest thing about New Year's Eve is what follows you into the new year.